Today's guest is Chris Calandro, founder of Big Game USA. Now, Big Game USA is the largest manufacturer of footballs in the U.S., and they're based right here in Dallas. Chances are, if you've ever played the sport, you've used their product. We're going to talk about Chris' journey to Texas and his experience founding the company and his lessons on life and entrepreneurship along the way. Welcome to the show. No, you don't. And that's the thing that when people are thinking about Texas, they don't realize how diverse it really is.
Yeah.
And how multicultural it is.
Yeah. It also, I probably feed off it a little bit because if people say we're nice and whatever, it kind of encourages me to want to be, more kind to
nice
people.
Too.
Yeah, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, be kind is a great philosophy to live by, for sure.
I think so.
Now, are you originally from North Texas?
No.
No, where are you from, Chris?
I'm a displaced Cajun from South Louisiana.
Okay.
You'll hear it every now and then in my accent.
What, can you give us a preview?
I say things like "come see," which I don't think is that unusual, but my family says "come see." Like, what are you talking about?
Well, how would you use that? To me, that sounds normal too.
I don't know. Just what are you doing in there? I'd say "come see," or I don't know.
Come see for yourself. But you're like,
right.
Come see.
Yeah. I say things like "I've been having it" or "I've been having that."
Interesting. Okay. So what brought you here to North Texas?
Well, I graduated from LSU, and at the time, the economy was pretty bad there. They're pretty heavily oil and gas dependent, and I didn't really have any offers or opportunities. So I went to Colorado to work at a camp, a Young Life camp.
Okay. I love Colorado.
Yeah, it's beautiful. Obviously, in the summer, it was amazing. And I met a girl there that was doing the same thing I was doing, just messing around in the summer. And she was a waitress at this camp I was at, and I was a tour guide. And so got to know her, and she lived from Dallas. She was from Irving, and just started this wonderful long story. And
is this a story that's continuing today?
It is. Okay. It is. Yeah.
The wife you met in Colorado.
Yeah.
And neither were from Colorado.
Correct.
That's fun. Was it one summer you were there?
It was one summer. Yeah. Although I've been a few times, had been a few times previous, and I've been since, of course. But it was just kind of a summer gig. I just graduated. And was just looking for something to do in summer to mess around. And
what a lucky decision, right? A fortunate decision.
I think so, yeah.
Yeah. So I know part of your resume was working, I think it was Beckett Sports Management.
Right.
Or media. So is that what brought you to Dallas? Was that your career here?
Yeah. I mean, love is what brought me here, but I was able to get on with Beckett in their warehouse. And so I was... I'm kind of a generalist type of personality, so they had a spot in the warehouse. I went and just proved myself, and generally was like packing boxes of magazines and just a real physical job working in their warehouse, and just worked hard and tried to prove to them that I had something to offer, and did some good things there.
Yeah, and so I want to talk about your company, but let's stick with your story a little longer, because at some point I think you had some girls.
Yep.
Yeah. So you met a wife in Colorado, and then girls came here in Dallas.
Correct.
And family all still in the area?
I have another interesting thing about girls is I have 7 sisters, and so I have several of them still live in South Louisiana, and I got to see them at Easter. It was wonderful. And I lost one of them, unfortunately, and I have one brother. So I'm surrounded by girls, and I had the 3 daughters with me and my wife.
Okay. And now you're, in my opinion, heavily invested in the sports industry. Did you come from a sports family, or how did that happen?
In the South and in Louisiana especially, like the football culture is pretty heavy. So, grew up going to LSU games with my father and family and tailgating.
Oh, wow.
And of course, the high school football culture there is huge as well.
Even more so than here in Texas?
I think it's, the same, similar to all throughout the South. But I'd say high school football in Louisiana is very strong.
Wow.
From a business standpoint, we're very saturated there. But I was the kid, I was the 8-year-old kid at a high school football game playing football under the stands with a paper cup.
Okay.
The kids
right,
that
right.
play
Yeah, for sure.
Just loved playing the game while I was playing, and I just love the game of football, and I've always it's been my number one sport for sure.
Nice. And so, what was your inspiration for starting Big Game USA?
The more you get to know me, you'll know I'm kind of a nutty professor type.
Okay.
I'm super curious, and I like to discover new things. And while I wasn't a great student, I love to learn. And while I wasn't playing football, it really did start where I was playing flag football in a competitive league, and I tore my ACL. And I was sidelined with that injury and in bed for a week after surgery. And I had some ideas and I was playing around with, like, I have pretty limited graphic talents, but I do, think in terms of colors and pictures. And I had this idea. My high school in Louisiana, Broadmoor, after I graduated, they went to the state championship game.
Okay.
And didn't win the game, but it was a big deal to be there. We were always the team that everybody's helmet was a little bit different color, and nobody's pants matched.
Okay, like a Motley Crue, a little
bit like that, yeah. And so, we played as a team that had like 100 players, and their uniforms were like on point. It was so it was a big deal to play them, to be there. We didn't win the game, but I wanted to do something nice for the coaches that I knew there, and so. With my ACL injury in bed for a week, I called really every big sporting goods company there was, all the big guys, and I just said, look, I want to buy 6 footballs for these coaches. Here's the names I want to put on them. Here's what I want the score to be, and I just kind of laid it out the way that I wanted it to go, and I was going to give them as gifts to my coaches that I knew. And all the brands told me, like, listen, we don't, call us when you have an order for 100, but don't, we can't be messing around with your little.
Yeah.
And I remember one in particular, still a competitor today, but I don't know, they just trying to run, don't stop wasting our time, Sparky, call us when you have a big deal and we'd love to talk to you.
Call us when you're serious.
Yeah. And so that curiosity and, sense of discovery and things that are part of the way that I was created, I just thought, this can't be that hard. Like, this can't be that complicated. So I just started painting with a paintbrush. So I just started painting what I thought would be the way that it should be done. And in my injury, I was in bed, so I called every college football team and every pro team there was. And I said, look, I've got these samples. I'm painting game balls for players. If you ever need anything, tell us who coach awarded a ball to on Sunday, and I'll have them to you by Thursday.
Wow.
And that was kind of unheard of. Well, simple idea, but no one was doing it that way. They were all, it was like printing a T-shirt 30 years ago. You don't buy just one shirt. You got to make.
I totally remember.
So that's really the way the
yeah.
industry was. Like, that's all they really wanted to do was to make, quantity. And I was like, well, I just want 6. And anyway, with that week in bed, just make some calls. I got cussed out. I got hung up on. But I got probably 3 or 4 relationships that really are still standing today. Some of the people I know. I think we got, University of Texas, and we got Purdue, and I think the Seattle Seahawks. I think Virginia. There was just some schools that really said, "Yeah, that's interesting." I guess they were into it. Mm-hmm. So I had probably 3 accounts, and how it goes with that. You get 3 accounts and you treat them right. They tell their friends. You can leverage those relationships to who they know and network, and it's still kind of the way we roll today. Like, it's not a real sophisticated business philosophy, but we just really try to make really great product, the best footballs money can buy, and treat people right. And it's just the phone rings. Like it's
that's amazing.
It's not complicated, but that's just what we do.
Yeah, that's awesome. I mean, it's effectively you have a referral-based business.
What's that?
You effectively have a referral-based business. Like,
yeah, we do some things now, but I mean that's the easiest way to do it. If you make great product and you take care of people, your path becomes a lot easier.
So it sounds like the initial idea wasn't manufacturing, but taking a already manufactured football and customizing it as a gift. Is that right?
That's right, and I think if you ask around, I think that's kind of the way it goes in entrepreneurship. Like for me, for sure, what the picture is now, I didn't see that back then.
Okay.
It was strictly, you have to, in order to know the right path, you have to take the wrong path, and so back then it was me and my wife and our kitchen table and a can of paint.
Wow. Okay.
But you never know where it's going to go, and you just start making moves and taking steps, and the right ones, the right path reveals itself to you.
Yeah. One opportunity leads to another, and more come. I always find those stories cool. So, what does Big Game look like today? I know it's not at your kitchen table anymore.
It's not. Yeah, we got kicked out. Me and the paint. So we, as we've grown, the company really got good when I got good help. Like, we just have great people, and over the years, not just our customers and vendors, but our staff and the team, the people that. Between now and over the years that have helped along the way. I think all I'm really good at is getting it started and some industry direction and things. And I still, like I said, the nutty professor, I have plenty of ideas. This many are good. So
you only need one good one, though.
But 10% is sort of what I'm shooting for. But, when we got good people that were strong in ways that I was weak, it really, the magic started to happen.
So you built a great team then?
We have a great team.
Yeah.
I think we have about 80 people now, from those, humble beginnings of painting game balls. To finish that story, I guess I realized after painting footballs, this is not scalable. Like, my garage was full of footballs. My wife was ticked that we were in the way all the time. I had people coming in to help, into our home, and that didn't go very well. It was this guy named Tom that was a good friend and helped me tremendously, but he was in our house all the time, and it just became hard.
Yeah.
So I decided we need to start stitching display footballs, like instead of painting them by hand, to start designing them on a computer and printing them and stitching them, and that's really how we scaled it from the early days of painting them by hand.
Okay. Now, do you all make the football too? Now?
We do. We have for many, many years, a couple of decades, as a matter of fact.
That's what I thought.
Stitching, again, display footballs, and then 15, 20 years ago, we decided I would give tours to my buddies, and they would see what I did, and they would say, "Yeah, but you don't make real footballs. These are just toy footballs." And I remember thinking
I imagine that's hard on the ego. No, these are
my gosh!
real.
I was like, I want to make real footballs, and so really, again, back to that curiosity and desire to learn, we committed ourselves to learning how to make an on-field leather game playable football.
Okay.
Quite a bit different than a display ball, of course.
Yeah, I'm sure. Toy car is different than a real car.
Yeah.
And I believe I read that you're producing 100,000 footballs a year now.
I think it's about twice that now.
Wow. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
That's a lot of footballs.
Yeah.
And they're all done here in Dallas too.
They are.
That's impressive to me. So you've been in the business quite a while. I'm sure there's been tempting to ship your manufacturing to a lower cost place. What's kept you here in Dallas and in the U.S. in particular?
It's pretty easy, and there's multiple reasons. We got into football making and manufacturing when you're a lot younger than I am. But if you if you remember 30 years ago, offshoring became really popular in American business. I think it still is, honestly.
I think so too.
And so all the big players in the market were getting out of making product in America. In fact, still today, most footballs are made overseas. And so that's very obviously familiar to me because that was key to us building our business. But it was divine, the timing that we got in right when everyone was getting out. Like if you were not experienced, you would say that was stupid. That was the wrong time to get in. Like everyone's offshoring. You can save $7 a ball if you... But because all those guys were going offshore, there was this hole in the market of, I remember one day we got a call from Bob Stoops. He had a golf tournament and he needed 200 footballs in like 5 days or something. For a golf tournament. Yeah. There was all these jobs that were, overseas just doesn't work for that stuff. And so we filled this gap that was being vacated by everyone else. And a lot of machines we have we bought for pennies on the dollar from, our competitors.
How fortuitous, right?
Yeah. So we have extra machines that we still have that we purchased for just next to nothing. That it just really was divine, the timing that we got into it, and so that's fresh in my memory. So, for us to go offshore would be, it's not something that we're interested in.
No, I love that. I'm hoping to see more businesses that choose to produce their product here, locally in Texas, but just more generally in the U.S.
Yeah, and there's more reasons too. Like, all our proprietary trade secrets, like they're within,
your office.
Yeah, my office, and maybe even my brain.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of useless information up there too, but we sort of have good control over our IP and our. And my office is literally 10 feet from the production floor. So if I ever have a middle of the night idea of something I want to try, like literally we've tried it in 30 minutes from when I get to the office. Mm-hmm. So that's just a huge strategic advantage for us that we can innovate that fast.
That's such a good point. You're not having to send it to a third-party provider.
Wait for prototypes.
In Asia, and then have to send it back. And FedEx is great, but you're losing a lot of time there.
Clearly.
Interesting. So you guys provide footballs for all levels of play. How did you get into the in-game football market? I think you called it slightly different, but...
Yeah, I mean, that's great, on field. But we, again, we had to morph from this. We had this problem, I guess this was, 20 years ago, but we were making a lot of display footballs, which is super... busy like Q4, Q1, and so in Q2 and 3 we'd have to lay people off, and it just was an awkward cycle. Like it wasn't working. So it did naturally fit because on-field game footballs is really hot for us in Q2 and 3. Like that's when we're focused on it right now. So it naturally fit this continuity or this year-round business because it's evolved from this. I say around the office, Chris's football hobby to a legit player in the sporting goods.
Absolutely,
world. Yeah. But we had to learn. Like leather football is, it's just so much more complicated. Now, instead of sitting on a shelf and looking pretty, it needs to perform. It has to weigh the right thing. It has to be the right shape. It's got to fit NCAA specs, NFHS high school specs. It's just a completely different beast. Durability, it's got.
I think about football is lasting. Yeah. Well, how long does a football last?
I'll say ours last longer than the competition. Like we build them to last a long time, as long as the leather will hold up.
Yeah, I think of this as. Of course, I think of. I didn't play football. I grew up in California, so I didn't play football in high school or growing up. But I think of them as something that lasts decades, but that's something maybe you have at your house that you throw around with dad every now and then. I imagine in a legitimate gameplay, like this thing is getting a lot of wear and tear on it.
Yeah, and I think that's still the way it is. Like, I still think, we make, I think we make the best football in the world. I think a lot of things you see on sale at retail are built for a different purpose. We're built to win. Like, we want to win national championships and Heisman trophies.
Okay, yeah.
Footballs you see on sale at retailers is generally made to hit a price point.
Yeah.
Are you a real estate agent listening to this podcast? Our team is growing. To find out more about joining a fun, service-minded team, go to hastingsre.com/careers. That's HAISTINGSRE.com/careers.
In the beginning, when you made that shift to the game footballs, how did you get customers?
I think it was in probably the late 90s. I was at the American Football Coaches meetings, and I met this guy from Nike that's still a great dear friend of mine. At the time, Nike was getting into college football. They were doubling down on it.
Okay.
And we had this little operation. I probably had a day job at the time, honestly, still working at Beckett. And they saw that we were decorating footballs and stuff. And so he asked me, like, hey, we are wanting to get into footballs. Can you help us, like, put team logos on? And so back to this curiosity, I figured out how to do what they were wanting me to do. And we started, they were already taking balls from overseas, and so we basically would take those from the factory. We're not making them at the time in the late 90s, and we'd take them from the factory overseas, and we'd put team logos on them and stamp them with foil and drop ship to their teams. And that met a need for them. We treated them right, and we broke bulk for them, and we gave them this great service to their college partners. And one day I get a call from my buddy, and he said, I don't know what we're going to do, but the factory that is making these footballs is shutting down. They're not going to make footballs anymore. They're closing their doors. And he was like, we were not sure what we're going to do. And the
door was open.
Yeah, I stepped right up, as I do from time to time. Not sure if I could actually pull it off, but we were already playing around with the idea. And I said, we can do it. We can do it. We can. Would you be interested if we can provide you some prototypes and commit to the quality and the quantity that you need? We give us a tryout. And we got their commitment they would, because we had served them for 10 years in a smaller capacity. And went to Portland and Beaverton, met with them, made the pitch, me and Josh on our team, and we had were able to convince them. We were competing against other factories across the world. We didn't have there was really no reason why they should have picked us. And they did. And we busted our chops for them, and committed ourselves to making the best football in the world. And it was a struggle, a challenge. It was R&D on overdrive. I hear entrepreneurs say it's like jumping out of an airplane and building a parachute on the way down.
Yeah.
That's a little bit about the way it was. And there's no finish line. Really, we're still tweaking, still learning. A great thing about our company is we are 100% focused on football. And so it really makes it easy for us. We don't have anybody on our team that's developing volleyballs or baseball gloves or basketballs. We are all football all the time. And the game of football, we say, is a uniquely American sport. And football demands the attention that only we give it. We're into the millimeters. We are focused on every detail of the American football. We eat, sleep, and breathe it.
Yeah, it's easy to get distracted too by being a lot of things for a lot of people. but the power can really be in the focus.
Yeah, and that's a challenge, especially for ADHD, nutty professor. So I keep going back to the great people. Like I've got people now. Robbie, a lady that runs the company, does a great job of taking care of operations for us. Amazing woman who runs the company, and she's doing a great job.
Awesome.
And other people close to me, Mike Paley and some others, our sales team, that sort of keep me in line. Like when I say, what about this? Like I said, only 10% of them are worth entertaining.
But some of those 10% can be big money makers and can also keep the business moving forward. And
they can be, but the great people around me that keep me focused on, I hear you. I think that's a great idea. It's interesting, but I'm not sure that's something we should be spending our time on.
Yeah,
I need that a lot.
I think a lot of entrepreneurs need that. It's a team that keeps them focused, and then when they like the idea, they jump behind it and make it real.
Yeah.
What's one of the pivots y'all have made since? I think the big thing that I heard was you're able to get to the in-game football. Have there been other pivots since then for the company?
There's been some things. COVID obviously changed some things for us. We made a big pivot during COVID, and we retooled our factory to make masks for several months. That was an important thing for us, although we don't make masks anymore. Like everyone, they're widely available, but it allowed us to stay open when others were closed. Like we all have great, not great, but memorable experiences from that. But when it went down, like everyone else, I called the mayor, Mayor Dye at Farmers Branch, and Aaron with the Chamber of Commerce, and I said, what can we do? We have this sewing operation with all these people and all this machinery. Like, surely it can be put to good use. Like, put us to work. And so Mayor Dye allowed us to stay open. He sort of authorized us to be open. And we made masks for first responders within Carrollton, Addison, and Farmers Branch.
Wow. I love that. That's tricky when you think about manufacturing COVID because, people are close. You had to retool everying almost.
Yeah.
The basics already, though. Like you're in a sewing business.
We had all the everything we needed, people and machinery, and but it allowed us to stay open, and that was it. That was a big thing for us. And following that up, like when companies reopened after COVID, slowed down, we had it under control. We had all our staff. Like we didn't furlough anyone. I can't say that was this business decision that I made in advance. Like we just, a great result was when we opened up and started making footballs again, we had everybody we needed. We allowed them to work through that, keeping them safe, of course, through the whole process. But we were seamlessly retooled, and our competition had some real trouble.
Yeah, it's something I hadn't even considered before you brought that up. What was the most difficult part leading your company during those times?
It was definitely the most challenging leadership experience I've ever had. A lot of long nights. It was very hard because there's this balance of keeping people safe, but at the same time, what are you doing to them if they don't have a way to support their families?
Job? Yeah.
So, and there was a lot of big name business people in Dallas, saying this is the way you should do it. We didn't necessarily follow that script. But it was one day at a time. A lot of long nights where I'm like, I don't know if we're doing this right. I don't know if this is the right thing. We really just got through it one day at a time, and we effectively kept our team safe, continued to serve our customers when the time was right to switch back to footballs, and but it was a very challenging experience.
Yeah, I can. It was challenging for everybody. When you brought that up, it definitely made me think about, oh wow, how do you pivot and keep 80 people still going and keep on focus.
Yeah.
And those are times when leaders are made or they break.
Yeah. Jim Beckett gave me some great advice. I'm still close to Jim, and back when I had a day job. But I remember you just said something that's been said 100 times before, or millions of times, but he just said, cool heads prevail. And so I sort of used that to get through COVID, just like one day at a time. We're gonna serve our team to make sure they're safe, and we're not gonna back away. We're gonna keep moving forward.
So you're selling about, like you said, about 200,000 footballs a year now. It's a lot of footballs, all shipping out of Dallas, Texas. What's next? Where do you go from here? What's your vision?
I said it before, there's no finish line. I won't get into too much about what we have planned, but there is so much innovation to gain. There's so many opportunities. There's certainly international opportunity. I had a call this morning about some opportunities there in Western Europe. I think the game of American football is growing globally, both at flag and full contact. That's something that we're very excited about. But above all else, I think it's we're heavily interested in helping and serving women's football is something that we're moving very quickly on.
Interesting. And it'll probably be a different ball, I imagine, or
it
weights
is.
or specifications.
Yeah, it is. It's cool the way the story is unfolded, because I've been surrounded by women my whole life, 7 sisters and 3 daughters.
God has a sense of humor.
Female cat,
7 sisters and now 7 and 3 daughters.
And then a woman runs our company, so very well, I might add. But some women's football organizations came to us and said, "Hey, we called the competition and they kind of blew us off. What can you do?" And it just really lit a fire in me. It's like, what? Like, who would do that? So we've been spending time with the top, female football players, quarterbacks particularly, Brittany Bushman and Michelle Roque and some others, to build footballs that they like, and no finish line, but we're really excited about where that's going.
Okay. Did it ever feel full circle to sell footballs to your alma mater?
Yeah. In fact, the other day in the office, I was at the front desk, and we got a stack of mail, and so I was just looking, and so there were some checks in there, and so I was flipping through them, and I had one check from the New Orleans Saints. Okay, so that's sort of my pro team, and I was looking, and I was like, that's freaking cool. The Saints are giving us money. Like, how great is that? So I told one of the guys, B-Mart at the office, and I said, look at this check right here. I was like, is that just the coolest thing? You got, somebody that I've just followed my whole life just sent us money.
Yeah,
like, that's
it
really
is cool. Yeah.
Yeah. So same with LSU. Like, I try to go there as much as I can, because I have family down there too. But I went to the Florida game this past year, and I'm hugely sentimental. Like, it just brings back all these memories of, my father taking us to games. We have some great stories that I won't get into about just family time that we've had, all centered around LSU football, and it just warms my heart to work with them. And
I bet
if that's all ever accomplished, like, that would be like great. But
you've already said
I'm
so
glad
much
we're
more.
I'm glad we're more than that.
I bet it was cool getting that order for sure.
Yeah.
I love thinking about stories like that.
Yeah.
Now, if you were to start your business all over again today in 2024, what would you do differently?
So many mistakes. It's just mind-boggling how many wrong decisions I've made and things that we've done that were not right. It's just a long list, but we move really fast, which I'm proud of. But in some ways, I wish we'd moved faster.
Okay.
I've heard other entrepreneurs say things about if you're not a little ashamed of your product, you maybe aren't moving fast enough. So I don't know. It's been this. Now that I'm more mature, like I look back on my life and my career, and while it was a crooked, twisted, complicated road, it's been a beautiful picture. So to change things that maybe shaped me or us is a little twisted, because that stuff really led us to where we are.
Yeah. Well, I would say what would be the tenets of business now that you value most, that kind of discerned over the years?
I think it's really just treating people right and making good product. Mm-hmm. It's not that complicated. We just try to. That's really all we try to do, and then really the rest takes care of itself.
That's so true. Yeah.
By doing those two simple things, the relationships we've built with players and suppliers and equipment managers and football coaches, the thing I like to do most with the company is innovation. Like, that's really what gets me excited, is innovating either ideas, the way we operate, or the products we build, or the way we serve people. But along the way, like, if you just listen, your customers will tell you exactly what to do. They'll tell you exactly how to innovate. Mm-hmm. So you gotta really, check your ego and what you think, and just listen. Every single innovation we've had, whether it be some way that we serve or some way that we build footballs, it's been from directly talking to a customer or a quarterback or a coach or equipment manager or a consumer at some level.
Yeah. I heard somewhere that all business is innovation plus marketing. And so when I think about it, I think that's probably fundamentally correct. And what you're saying just further backs that up, that take care of your people and continue innovating and making an even better product or service, and the rest takes care of itself.
Yeah, I've never heard that before, but we don't need to, we do market, like, that's not correct to say that we don't. The cost that you spend to paint a picture for someone of who you are and what you do is usually more expensive and harder than a customer having a great experience and then telling their friends how great you are. Mm-hmm. I don't generally, the more you get to know me, the more I don't generally like to promote. I prefer to be, behind the scenes. I would rather someone else say, something great about what we've done or what we do.
I think you have a marketing person or a CMO who probably does some of that. You've got a great website.
Thank you. It's a battle that we have, honestly. Like, Paley is, he's great at that. But one of the ongoing battles we have is, we should do this, or we should promote ourselves, or in social media maybe that we're not in. He wants us to be in, and just that's an example. But I don't know. I feel like our world is a little too self-promoting, maybe.
I do think the same thing. And I had this conversation with one of my mentors literally yesterday, because a person probably needs to have some presence online so people can validate them. Not necessarily, but this person, I was like, at what point does somebody not need to do that? And and I'm like, Bill Gates probably doesn't really need his Instagram account. Like, everybody knows who he is.
Yeah,
right. And they don't need to really validate. Like, hey, there's plenty else out there, and you have a tight network where customers can validate with each other. Because I'm sure that even while coaches are competitors, they're also colleagues and wanting to know, hey, what's the best product, or what are you guys doing?
Yeah.
And so I just always wonder, like what you're saying, hey, how much is the right amount of marketing and how much is too much?
Yeah, and I'm probably on the I'm on the maybe on the wrong side of that, but I don't know. Philosophically, I just struggle with, I don't know. I feel like there's a lot of it in this world, and it kind of wears me out after a while. And
there's a lot in my industry too, so I think about that quite frequently.
Yeah, but one thing that we can agree on, not that you're on the opposite side, but one thing that in the middle of that, maybe a compromise of that spectrum is, when we promote ourselves, it needs to be true. It needs to be not overblown, not contorted, not twisted. It just needs to be authentic and real. And so I'm a stickler on that for sure.
I think that's what everybody's craving right now, is something that's real, because we live in a world where all the experiences are manufactured. And so when you go to something that feels really authentic, it really resonates with everybody.
Right. Yeah.
Anyways, that's me getting philosophical here. Thinking back to your entrepreneurship journey, everybody defines success differently. What does success look like for you?
Before the show started, we were talking a little bit about, lifestyle. And for me, it is, keeping that in perspective. Like, I do think about career accomplishments and maybe some that we haven't, hit yet. But for me, the thing I think most about is, the happiness of our team and our customers and vendors. And we have this, it didn't plan it, but we have this influence or relationship with all these people that we met through this crazy football thing.
Yeah,
like there's no vertical thing about football, I don't think. So, it's just, I want to personally have, the lifestyle that makes me happy. And I want that for my people too. Like I want our team to do the same as well. Like I don't know. I try not to be focused on me and try to focus on all the people that are in this sphere of influence from this crazy football.
Servant leader is kind of what I'm hearing.
That's probably for other people to say.
Okay. Yeah, that's fascinating. When you talk about lifestyle, one of the things I thought about is your lifestyle, because you're really immersed in football. You're thinking football Monday through Friday, most likely.
More than that.
And then are you also watching it on Saturday and Sunday too?
I am. I've had to whittle to specific parts of football. It probably had an unhealthy level. When you're 25, you watch every single game, all day, all week, really. So I'm really excited and fully invested in the UFL, the merged league between the USFL and the XFL. So I'm knee deep into that. I love it. I'm really into spring football. I love high school football, like going to a game on a Friday night. Sometimes my wife will hit bed a little early or something, or just say she's going to go watch TV in the bedroom, and I'll slip out and go to a game.
High school football game.
I just love the atmosphere.
There's something pure about high school football.
There is. Like I think I said it earlier, but I think in terms of shapes and colors and all the senses. And so when I think of football, high school football and college football, to me, it just stimulates all my senses with, the smell of barbecue, the sound of the bands, the colors of the uniforms. It's just an experience, and I think high school and college football have a better game day experience than NFL.
It's more corporate in the NFL, or more manufactured and going
back to, you go back to authenticity. It's just, I don't know. I mean, I've been to a few Super Bowls, and I don't know. I just love college football. I love high school football. I love all about it. And then in our products, we try to to mimic that with the senses of the way, the ball smells and the way the colors that we use and the design and obviously the way it performs and feels. I try, when I do a special edition football, I try to pull that and the things you get from the game and plug it into the footballs that I design.
Oh, wow. So you'll personally design football sometimes?
It's my favorite thing. I do.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, we do. I get asked by customers and accounts to do something special for a specific game that they have. We do, and I love. I was a horrible student, like terrible. But I love history. I don't know how. I like researching things about their culture and things that are important to that program and that part of the country or the world even. The history behind the special uniform that they're doing, like I get off on that. And so I really enjoy taking that. And because I know so much about manufacturing footballs, I know what we can do and what we can't do.
Right.
And because I have this insatiable desire to create and discover, like we were always trying things, and it's I think you'll see it in the things that we design. And speaking of that, I brought you a gift today.
Okay. This is a first.
Yeah. I know you're talking about special designs, but was asked to design a football for this customer, and I know you served in the United States Army, so
you did some research.
I wanted to present you with a limited edition Rock of the Marne football we designed for.
Thank you.
Yeah,
that's very kind of you. I really appreciate that.
So that was inspired by the 3rd Infantry and the their influence on Operation Desert Storm, and clearly the work they did in World War I.
That's so cool. Thank you, Chris. I appreciate that.
Price is right.
We have a tradition on the podcast, which is that our last guest gets to pose a question for the next guest, and they don't know who it is. And our guest had for you, what is the most important lesson you've learned over your career?
That's a great question. I think it's true. My answer is true for my career, but it's also true for my life. Growing up one of 9 kids, I quickly, through my upbringing, I learned that it's not about me. With that many kids and parents that were exhausted, and I was 8 of 9, so that's really a part of who I am, and my family reminds me too. But I have this great life that I just love the people around me, personally and professionally. Like I have this team that I work with, and they're great people. And as I've gotten older and more experienced, I just know that my job is to have an influence on the people around me. It's not about what I want to do, or ultimately I find happiness by serving all the people around me, and that ultimately serves me.
Yeah, I like that.
Being honest.
Well, it's true. I think it's so easy to get consumed by oneself, and when you're serving other people, you lose sight of yourself, and you just get wrapped up in their joy and what's going on with them.
Yeah.
So it's a great lesson. Thank you. One of the things I always like to ask is, what do you wish I would have asked you in our show today?
I'd like to do, this has been so focused on me. I'd like to know more about you, and tell me about the Army, or
I think I'm boring.
My biggest life regret is I didn't serve in the military. My father served in the U.S. Army in World War II. He served in the South Pacific, and I don't know. This interview's been about me, but I want to hear more about you.
Sure. I can take a quick moment to share about me. It's particularly the Army. That was actually a great season of my life. I did not necessarily grow up thinking I wanted to be in the military. In high school, it was not on my radar screen at all, actually. But I applied to a Cornell for, they had a school called the hotel school because I wanted to do hotel administration and study hospitality. And I applied and got accepted, which was a surprise and a blessing. And then we also got the financial aid package or lack of financial aid package. And it was like, oh, this might not be possible. And randomly, let's talk about how decisions will shape your life. This was definitely one that shaped mine. As I said, well, let me apply for this ROTC scholarship. Okay. Cornell was the only Ivy League that had an on-campus ROTC program. So I applied.
Was that one of the things you were looking for?
I was not looking for ROTC, but it was a scholarship, and I graduated high school in 1999, and the world looked way different then. And the military was very corporate, and I thought, well, this could be interesting. I could have them pay for my school. I could go in the military for 4 years and go work on some base in the U.S. or in Hawaii or wherever, and then I will go and get out of the Army and just have a traditional career. And then life didn't work quite like that. My September 11th happened my junior year of college. And then senior year on spring break, that's when the Iraq war kicked off. And so, but at that point I was committed. And so I got commissioned as a second lieutenant in the graduation weekend. And then a couple weeks later, I went and started my officer basic training and then got assigned to a unit in Colorado, the 3rd ACR. And then they were deployed. So they're like, don't unpack. Like, you're going to get shipped out quickly. And so it was the day after Thanksgiving in 2003. And then I got deployed on a shorter tour because they'd already been there from the initial invasion, and got back and kind of got on a cycle of about every other year going overseas for deployment.
Okay.
And I love the deployments, actually. Obviously, war is not great, but what's fascinating to me about the military is to have all the resources at your disposal. Like, that was the military's for. Like, they were doing their job. So it wasn't just training. It was like whatever you needed, it was there for you. And I was a logistics officer, so we supported the warfighter, they would call it then. And so I got back, and I was 8 years in the military, and I was still very much enjoying it. I had the opportunity to command soldiers, but that was kind of the cutoff point. If you want to stay more than that, well, now you're getting halfway towards a full pension. So what's a decision point?
Right.
And I made the decision to get out of the military at a high point for me, and then go to grad school back at Cornell. And then I came here. That's how I ended up in Dallas.
Okay.
I took a job here in Dallas. It was going to be a job that required traveling a lot, and Dallas kind of made sense. It was very practical.
Yeah.
I could fly either side of the country without too much hassle.
And you'd seen the California weather, but you still chose Dallas.
I did, yeah. I don't know. I guess if I had so much money I didn't know what to do with it, I would consider moving back to California.
Okay.
But beyond that, I think Texas is a really great place to live and just do life.
Yeah.
It's obviously gotten more expensive in the decade I've been here, but it's good living, really kind people. We welcome everybody, and then what I've been doing, helping people buy and sell homes, and kind of help with the dream of home ownership and people in that chapter.
Yeah, that's great.
So that's me in a nutshell. Hopefully that answered your question.
Yeah. I don't like to talk about me so much.
Oh yeah, I don't like to talk about me so much either.
I can tell you're uncomfortable with it.
That's fine. It's good for me to get uncomfortable every now and then. So if our audience wants to connect with you or with Big Game, what's the best way to do so?
Yeah, well, we are on, I think, most social channels at Big Game USA, and our website is biggameusa.com, and that's how you get a hold of us.
Awesome. Thanks so much for joining us today, Chris.
Glad to be here. It's an honor.
If you've ever gazed into the sunset in the Lone Star State, then you know what it means to call Texas home.
I've never even rode a horse, but I did find my dream home in North Texas. Working with the Haistings Real Estate Group was a breeze. Whether you're a first-time buyer, home seller, or simply just looking to invest, the team has you covered. Selling your home doesn't have to be dramatic. Learn more by visiting hastingsre.com. That's HAISTINGSRE.com.